Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching my channel. If you want to subscribe, please subscribe down below. And this is the first video in a series called my IVF series or my journey. I don't know what I'm gonna call it. But finally, what everybody's been asking about and what I've been really nervous about telling, I don't know why I've been nervous about talking about our IVF story. I'm very open about it. I think this is just permanent, so it's fragile, and I just want to do it right, I guess. But I also don't want it to be some sort of script. I want it to be natural, as if you're in my living room. Yeah. So I thought it perfect to be in Jonah's room. This is Jonah's nursery. I am kind of squished in a corner to get some good lighting. That way I didn't look dark, because it can get dark in his nursery. But, well, I guess we should just get started, huh? So, when Josh and I were babies, no, I'm just kidding. Josh and I got married when we were 21. We did not want children right away. We had lots of friends who got married and got pregnant, had kids right away. We wanted time to ourselves. And it wasn't until 2008, when we were both 28, that we decided, well, we are getting up in age and we should probably start trying to have kids sometime soon. So it wasn't this like overwhelming excitement to like, let's have kids. Like, we both wanted kids, but it was more of, ooh, time is like flying by. We better get on this. So we decided in 2008 that we would finally start trying for kids or trying to get pregnant. We lived in Tulsa at the time, and I struggled for about a year to get pregnant. Around the 11-month mark, I discovered the Clear Blue fertility monitor, which tests your urine early on in your month, in your cycle, like around, I don't know, like day 5. And then it will continue to request you to test until, like, I don't know, maybe day 25. Each person is different in the way it works. I think it's been a long time, so not exactly sure. But it did. It almost tested me the full month, and then it tells you when you're ovulating. Well, I discovered that I was ovulating later. And so I thought, oh, well, maybe we're just missing it or something. I don't know. I used to call my sisters and asked them if it was difficult for them to get pregnant, and they were like, I just went off the birth control and bam, they were pregnant. And it didn't work for me that way. And so the first time I used the fertility monitor, I got pregnant. I was like, this is amazing. And unfortunately, that was in 2009. And unfortunately, that April, 4 days after my birthday and 3 days before Easter, I miscarried. I did not need a D&C. The baby did not form. It's what's called a blighted ovum. There is a sac, but there is no baby inside that sac. So I remember thinking, we tried for 11 months and nothing. That was difficult. I got over the hurt from that fairly quickly. I was ready to just dust things off and let's try again. And I think the thing that bothered me the most was that I was in Tulsa and I felt alone being away from family. I had a church family. I worked at Church on the Move. Shout out to Church on the Move. Woohoo! And I remember it was a work day. It was early morning when the miscarriage happened, and I had to call my boss, who was one of the pastors, and his son had come in to wherever he was talking with me on the phone at, a little boy at the time. And I remember he stopped him and said, you know, son, I am on a very important phone call. It's going to have to wait. And sent him out of the room. And I just remember feeling it meant a lot to me that he was present in that moment, if that makes sense. Like he stopped, he could have, his family was a priority, as any family should be. But in that moment, he made me that priority, and I needed it. I so needed it in that moment. So Pastor Greg, if you're out there, if anybody ever tells you this, just know what you did for me in that phone call, in that moment, meant a lot for someone who was thousands of miles away from home and felt alone. So thank you. But I did have a great support in the staff that I worked with, and I am grateful for that. And I discovered that so many people have miscarriages. I was so blind to that. Like, I didn't know. People just don't go around talking about it, I'm sure. But everybody, and multiple miscarriages. I was so shocked by it, and miscarriages that were further along than mine was, 3 and 4 months and 5 months. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. And at the time I didn't necessarily know or could relate to what that loss felt like. But I just remember thinking, man, that's a lot. And just going through the one miscarriage, I'm thinking, I don't want to go through that again. Mentally, I was ready to move on, but physically, my body was not allowing me to move on from that. So, and it was hard going to church that weekend because it was Easter. So there was some pain there, but I had to force myself to go to church and not become a recluse, because I can easily become a recluse and just hide away from people. And I knew I couldn't do that. Then later that year, like 6 months later, we moved back to Florida, and we were waiting for God to settle us in new jobs and get settled in our new place. And we thought, hot dog, we're going to get that fertility monitor out, and we're going to dust that thing off, and we're going to get pregnant. And by this point, it was 2010. Yeah, 2010. And a month goes by, and I'm not pregnant, surprisingly. And then next thing you know, it's been a year, and no pregnancy. So we made an appointment reluctantly at my OB, because you're thinking, it's just... like, you're not even thinking there's something wrong with you. But, everybody says, once the year mark hits, you should probably go talk to your OB. So that's what we did. And she sat us down and basically said, you need to go meet with a reproductive endocrinologist, which is a fancy science term for IVF doctor. And we just looked at each other and were like, what? At that point, there was nothing else she could do. It had been a year, it had run its course, and we had to figure out why it wasn't happening. And we were shocked. I think at least I was in some sort of denial. Like, you hear her saying it, but you're like, surely that's not us, right? Like, IVF is expensive. God wouldn't have me go through that, would he? How are we going to pay for it? Healthcare insurance in Florida doesn't cover IVF. Like, how much is this going to cost? Like, when you hear IVF, you think of thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And then you start really thinking of, is this really happening? What does my future look like? All these just crazy thoughts start just flooding. I'm sure it's the same way if you have gotten a really hard diagnosis. All of a sudden your brain is like flooded with all these new thoughts that you didn't have before. I feel like would be similar in this case. Because something that should be free and is very easy to do, and all the animals of the world can do it, why can't we do it? So that was really tough. And we did take a couple of months to just let it settle. It was getting ready to be the holidays. So we just decided to like sit on it, pray about it, think through it. And then after the holidays, that was in 2012, we decided to make the appointment. And we did go meet with the doctor, and we went through a series of tests. And that's where I'm going to stop this video, and you'll just have to wait until the next video. So yeah, it's a crazy journey. I'll tell you that. And I will say some things that I have learned along the way is that even family members who have children, they don't understand what you're going through, because especially like my family, including my mom, they had children very easily. And when you have children, it's hard to know what it feels like to not have them, or to go a long period of time not getting pregnant. You don't know what you don't know. So it's very unfamiliar. And while they understood, it was hard to really grasp the pain that we were going through. And most people who, the general population, it's the same thing. They can say things, they can throw out adoption, they can throw out being okay not having kids, but they haven't been on the journey. And what's important is that everybody's journey is different. What happened to us is very unique. What happens to you or someone you know is also very unique. Everybody's journey is completely different. And people who have not walked in your shoes don't understand. And if there's one thing that I could say in this video to help you or someone you know that is navigating through infertility, is that you shouldn't take someone's comments as hurtful. Unless you know they're completely being hurtful, that's one thing. But when I look back, some of the comments that were made to me, I knew they were made to be helpful, or I knew they were meant to be kind words, but people just don't know how you are interpreting those things. So take it lightly, take it with a grain of salt, because you don't have room to let those things fester. You just don't. Until you know how your journey ends, you don't have room for it. So that's the start of this video. If you have questions, comments, please comment below. If you want to send something privately, please go to my Instagram page and you can private message me there. I don't know if YouTube has a private, email inbox thing. I don't know if it does, but message me there. Yeah, I'm so glad that you guys are hearing our story, and I'm so excited that it's finally getting out there. It is a miracle story, and as you can see from the background, yeah, we're fortunate enough to have our miracle. We really are. So until next time, folks.